Salam, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered. And today I have the whole cast with me. But today's topic, talking about love languages. And the ladies are going to start off with this episode. And then towards the end, we're going to have the guys hop on and kind of talk about how they felt about what we discussed. So, Amina, you can go ahead and start us off.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Sorry again for not having my camera on. My hair is in an intermediate stage, and I would rather just not have the camera on me right now. But I thought that love languages would be an interesting thing to talk about because just like relationships in general are not really discussed in the Muslim community, even though I think that there is an appropriate way for us to talk about it in a public setting like this podcast. And as I've grown into adulthood, I've learned what love languages like mean to me and like how like much or little importance I put on them. And so I kind of just wanted to get an idea of what they mean to like other Muslims in our community. So yeah, tell me, you guys, what do love languages mean to you?
So honestly, like I honestly learned about love languages like probably like 2 years ago. I wasn't really aware on what exactly they were. And the more I learned about them, I thought they particularly only related to like romantic relationships, but they have to do with like any relationship you have, like with your family, with your best friends, or anyone really that you have a good relationship with. And the more I learned about it, I know there's like several quizzes online for it. And I know Unfiltered took a quiz altogether on our love languages, which was really fun. Um, but yeah, to me love language like in simple terms is basically just how you basically show love to others and how you want to receive love, if that makes sense. That's just how I would put it in simple form, in simple way.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Is how you show not just love but like appreciation and affection to others and how you want it shown to you. And for me, my love language is quality time. So I like spending a lot of time with people that I'm close to. And we can be doing anything, even if we're not necessarily talking, like just being in close proximity to somebody is um like enough for me. But it's also physical touch, so they kind of are like tied. um and so obviously I haven't known everybody on this pod for very long, but I'm a very like affectionate person, and I do like what is it called, giving hugs and things like that. I don't know, it just makes me feel really good. And sometimes when you're in a bad mood and you need a really good hug, that's kind of like where I'm coming from.
And just for anyone that doesn't know the love languages, it's words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, quality time, and physical touch. Just so we have that out there. But what about you guys? Do you guys have like, does one weigh more than the other for you guys, or does it even matter to you guys? Did you guys even think it was important to you guys before we even discussed this?
I've always thought they were relatively important. Like again, I didn't learn about them like until like recently, but I realized it did make sense that like my personal love language, how much it impacted my relationships. Like for example, mine would be words of affirmation, and I've noticed that people that are really good at communication, people that talk things through, I have an easier time being friends with them than with people who aren't, because when you have a relationship, you're supposed to love somebody in the language that applies most to them. And so I found that my friendships with people that understood that and kind of took that extra step to like make sure that that was a component in our friendship that was being met. I feel like those relationships have outlasted all my other ones, and those are my favorite kind.
So for me, I was actually really confused before I had recently done my research and learned about the love languages. It was like a couple of months ago, but I thought love languages meant that how you like it was. I thought it was only applied to how you show your love to other people. I don't know. It just didn't click to me that there was this whole aspect about how you like to be shown loved as well. And I feel like we often forget that both of those can be used in terms of love languages.
I agree with all of you guys. I recently just found out about it, and then like Omama said, kind of took like we all took a quiz together and kind of found out about our love languages. But for me, mine personally is quality time. But one thing I was thinking about just now is I may enjoy receiving quality time as like a love language, but if I had to think about if I had to think about the love language that I give or show off more, it wouldn't be quality of time. So like I love receiving quality of time, whether it be, like whatever kind of relationship. But if I think about what out of all the five languages, which one do I give off more like within my relationships, I think it would be like words of affirmation, or even like what was the one with the gifts? Like, yeah, gifts.
Yeah,
So yeah,
gifts.
so I just thought it was kind of interesting. I don't know if any of you can relate to that. Like you like receiving one, but you tend to give off another. Is that with anyone else as well?
The same thing, that same thing happened to me. Like that's why I was so confused in the beginning. I didn't think that it applied the same way, but yeah, I was the one. So my love language is acts of service, which I like to receive from others. But I was I was in between two. So mine is also acts of service, like give to other people, and also gift giving. But like I think gift giving was one of my lowest ones too for myself. But that's why it was just really confusing.
For me, like before I knew about love languages, it's like how I would want to receive love or how I would want someone to basically like be with me. I would put that out onto them. So like if I really like acts of service, I would do acts of service for them. But then when I learned about love languages, just because you like that doesn't mean that person likes that too, you know? So that was one thing that was really interesting because the thing is like in relationships or friendships or whatever, when I was like learning and reading about this, they said it is important to like basically analyze what people like, because the thing is that is what basically sustains a good relationship, because you're observant of what they want, not just yourself. And I guess that's what makes like a good relationship and friendship.
You know what's
Yeah. Oh,
interesting?
sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like what you said, like it's important to love people in their love language. Like being able to recognize all those signs and stuff like that is a sign of intelligence, specifically emotional intelligence, And like it's a really important aspect to have in all your relationships, especially because when I first heard about love languages, you think love, I feel like a lot of the times we associate it with like romantic partners and like relationships, but your love language isn't like, just for your partner or like your husband or your wife or whatever. It's for your parents, it's for your siblings, it's for your friends. And I feel like a lot of the times we have like maybe strained relationships with the people that are closest to us. And it's because a lot of the times communication is missing. And when you take into account something like a love language and seeing what it is that would make them personally more affectionate to you or kind of strengthen your relationship, like love languages have like such a big importance in that.
Going off of what Hannah said about emotional intelligence, like that's a really important thing, and not a lot of people talk about it when it comes to like when you're just talking about love in general, you don't talk about emotional intelligence. And when I was like reading about this, it's actually really important. It helps you a lot when it comes to like, creating relationships, even in school, dealing with stress, mental health, even like just overall in life, it helps you a lot, especially with mental health. Because the thing is, one thing when it comes to emotional intelligence is if you don't know how to deal with your emotions or you don't know what you want emotionally, that basically affects you a lot in life. And that basically shows how you deal with when stress comes into your life. And that makes it really difficult for people too. So when I was researching this, they said that emotional intelligence actually helps you a lot professionally, and overall it just shows how in tune you are with yourself and how comfortable you are with yourself. And that one thing that they always say is like, love yourself before you love others. So that goes same with emotions. Like you need to understand your emotions before you understand anyone else's.
I wanted to go ahead and just give a really quick definition for emotional intelligence. And it's listed as the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions. I'm really sorry if you guys can hear my family in the background. Emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. Um, and emotional intelligence, it I don't know how to like articulate this, but it's kind of like, oh my God, ignore my family, please. Um, so I just lost my train of thought completely, but I'm going to say the other thing that I was going to say is that love languages are not just about romantic relationships. I think that's a thing that kind of like makes people nervous at first, especially because like as Muslims who don't necessarily date, um we're not really like familiar with it from that perspective. But for me, like my when I talk about love languages, it's always in reference to like my friendships, my siblings, my mom, my and like that kind of thing. And it's actually like really helped, at least in my with my friendships. I have one friend who is she is so sweet, and I've she went through a really difficult time this summer, and I was like there for her throughout that time, and she was just like, Amina, I appreciate you so much. Amina, I love you. And you know, that was her love language, is words of affirmation. And so the way that she shows love and affection to people is by saying things like saying voicing her appreciation and saying like how much she loves somebody or how much like someone means to her. And that was probably like the most concrete um, exhibition of love languages that I had experienced. And it kind of made me realize, it's like, realize my own love language and how I show appreciation and love to others.
So basically, we talked about like what exactly love language is and our love languages. So one thing that we did want to discuss was, what do you do when you don't really like, are basically like, you don't really know what someone's love language is and it's just making it difficult within your relationship. So how do you address that, whether it's like romantic relationship or like a friendship? How would you guys go about it?
So
That's where that
before that,
oh
oh, go ahead.
sorry. Um I think that's where that emotional intelligence comes in, because you being able to communicate to somebody, not necessarily be upfront like, hey, what's your love language? Because not everybody's going to be able to answer that like concretely. But just being like, hey, you know, if you want to like say, I want to do something nice for you, or I want to get you a gift, you know, something like that, and just like kind of gauge what it is that you think that they like, what their likes and dislikes are, what kind of observe their habits and things like that. And you know, you kind of just have to like observe both like with your eyes, and of course, you know, just don't be afraid to like ask them, like communicate with them. And to be honest, I feel like that's how you're gonna get to your answer. I know.
Yeah, no, you basically said what I was going to, but I mean, the most simplest way, in my opinion, is honestly just taking the quiz. Like, like we all took the quiz, and a lot of us that didn't even know what our love languages, we found out what our love languages were. And honestly, there's so many quizzes online. You literally just type in love languages quiz, and I know the one that we all took. It was very, very specific. It was lengthy, but I think the results that we all got were pretty accurate, and it actually broke it down into like percentages, like how much of each percentage of the correlates to like our love languages, like by ranking it. So I think it's something that everyone should take if you haven't taken a love language, whether you know you're in a I mean, because again, like we all said, these love languages apply to every relationship. It's not just romantic. But I also think like it's kind of fun, like honestly finding out. So you know, have your friends take it, and you guys can kind of compare and contrast. And I know when I did it, I was like, I did it with a friend, and we were like, oh, this makes sense why like I like, because personally, me, like I said, I like acts of, I'm sorry, I like quality time. So I'm kind of the person that doesn't always reply back in text, and like just I'm like kind of that, but I love being able to spend time with someone like in person. So we were kind of just talking about like, oh, this makes sense, like why, you know, you're more of a person to always wanting to plan things and hang out and stuff. And it explains why I like, you know, like receiving gifts, and I get so happy when it's like my birthday or something. So it's just kind of interesting to do. So I highly recommend everyone taking the quiz at least once in their life.
I feel like we get into this habit of like wanting to like assume or like know everything about the people that we care about. And it's like we don't have to approach like love languages as something that we should automatically know. Like we don't have to do like a little investigative report or something in our relationship to find out. Like it's as easy as asking like what's your love language? And if they don't know what it is, then let's take the test together or something. The test that we all took, it was from like the author of the first person that wrote like that really heavily publicized book about the love languages, and it's so specific that you can definitely find out like after 10 minutes like something that's so important to your life. And it's like the little things that add up to fixing your relationships or making them better. And it's just kind of a tiny step that I think that everyone should take, honestly. Like if you're listening to this right now, like the second you log out, go ahead and take your own quiz so you can find something out like that.
And I feel like knowing your friends or like whoever you're with, like love language just makes you like closer to them, and it basically makes you understand more. And I feel like overall it will just like make your relationship with them better. So I feel like overall, yeah, it is really important to know people's love languages, because like Hannah said, like you can't always assume. And even for me, like I don't like really going into depth on like what I want, because I don't like talking about what I want. I'd rather like know what other people want. And I get why that would be frustrating for someone else. Like, okay, she never tells me what she wants. What am I supposed to do for her? So I feel like with this too, it's always like taking consideration to like how other people might see it too, and just taking it because they might be curious, you know? So I just feel like overall it's just good to know.
I have a question for you guys. So do you guys think that this whole idea of understanding one's love language is more of like a female thing or like a woman thing? Like, do you guys think that only like it's something that we understand or are more like counter to, or do you guys think it's also important for the guys and for like men in general to kind of understand their love language? I mean, we kind of talked about how everyone should, but obviously, I think there's a difference in when we talk about languages versus when guys do. And obviously, we're gonna have the guys up with us in a sec. But what do you guys think about?
Well, based on like what I've seen, like I've never really heard, I've never like whatever guys that I've talked to or whatever, I've never really heard them talk about like stuff like this specifically. So I don't know if they're really informed on this. But also like disregarding gender, I feel like it's important to for everyone to know. But yeah, I've never like I don't know how much they know, but we'll find out after this pod. But it would be interesting to know how much they know about this and how much they do care about it. Because regardless, I feel like after this conversation, we realize how important it is, because it does overall help everyone's relationship and friendship too.
I want
Mm.
to say that I do think that it's something that, or what Anam said, that it was like a little more geared towards girls. And I feel like it's even more important that boys take in this time because, again, like within our society, we can't deny that a lot of the times boys are told not to be emotional. And like with relationships in specific, even like within like maternal paternal relationships, I feel like women put in more effort to sustain like the emotional needs because, like, again, like they have the whole thing, women are emotional, right? And so I feel like love languages directly play into that. And I feel like it's more important for everyone as a whole to see it as something that's important and as like it's an important addition to the relationships. And it shouldn't be just the girls talking about like, oh, what's your love language or something like that.
I just want to say a rose by any name still smells sweet. And when I say that, I mean that um the guys or just men in general might not know what love languages are, like word for word. Like they might not know the name for it, but I feel like a lot of them, they still know what they themselves like and appreciate, and how they, what is it called, show affection to others. And I think that like the verbiage is definitely geared towards women, like love languages and meant to sound all romantic and everything. But I feel like boys and men, they know this. They are, I do like, they are what's it called, definitely like taught, like, with toxic masculinity, to like repress their emotions and to like not feel things outwardly, and to kind of just like hide how they're really feeling about things. But like even in their personal friend groups, like, you might have that one friend who is always like getting nice gifts for his friends, or another guy who is, always willing to give you a ride when you need it, or something like that, this acts of service. Or somebody who's just like, hey, let's hang out, let's go. I know the guys in our pod, they play a lot of ball, and so that's quality time right there. So like even if they don't know like all the words, like they might not know the name for it, I get the feeling that a lot of them are more in tune with their love languages than they realize. So um I want to give them some credit, but at the same time, I also don't want to make it look like it's their fault for not knowing, because of, gender norms and gender stereotypes are stupid. And guys can benefit from this just as much, if not more, than women can. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I totally agree, Amina. And again, we're gonna have the guys back on. We're gonna have the guys soon, so they can obviously speak for themselves. But one last question I wanted to ask you guys before bringing in the guys is, what do you guys do? What do you guys think that people should do if they if have one love language and the person in the opposite end doesn't have the same love language as you? Like, how would you create this like equal or like balanced relationship, whether it be in friendships or family? Because obviously there has to be some sort of balancing. Like, if I'm the one that always wants quality time, I can't expect like just to keep getting quality time and giving quality time if that person doesn't enjoy quality time. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be some sort of balance, especially if the two people have different love languages. So how do you balance that? Because a lot of the times when people don't have this balance, that's kind of how a lot of the relationships break. Again, whether it's friendship or a romantic relationship. So balancing these love languages are really important. But I think a lot of the time people may not understand how to do so. So what do you guys think that? How do you guys think that should happen?
Well, you're not supposed to love people in your love language. You're supposed to love people in their love language.
Exactly.
Like if me and Anam are friends and Anam, you said yours was quality time, then how I would express your like love language to you would be to spend time with you. And if mine is words of affirmation, then I would expect to be encouraged and compliments. And so if you guys give and take like from the love languages that you have, then you get that equilibrium that you're talking about.
I think it's also important to take notes on what people appreciate more than others, you know, like for example, your mom, like if she, most of our moms, like, you know, they like acts of service, they like us helping around the house and stuff, so they won't really appreciate other things like gift giving, for example. Like she probably would appreciate you helping around, you know, doing the dishes, doing the laundry, cooking, something like that. She would appreciate that more, right? So I feel like it's important for us to take note of what everyone appreciates rather than like they just don't really care as much. And that's when we
Going
make ourselves more aware of, just keep ourselves more aware of what they like and what they don't like.
Going off of what Nazish said, like basically observing what other people's love languages are, because I know it's not comfortable like asking someone like, "Oh, what's your love language? Like, what do you want me to do?" So I feel like regardless of like, I know people that I'm really close with, I just like automatically observe what they like, what they don't like. So it does come to some people naturally, but I feel like just putting in that effort on recognizing what they appreciate, what they don't really want is important because I feel like not all the time it's like it's very uncomfortable to ask someone that like what do you want? What do you want out of this? And sometimes it can be inconsiderate too, but obviously like communicating it, if you don't like, if you struggle to see it, then obviously communicating is really important too. And I feel like that's one thing that love languages emphasizes, to really like notice or talk about what's needed and what's lacking.
I think remaining unrigid and understanding and realizing that, everybody shows affection and appreciation differently. And I think Anam and Hannah both made like the most excellent point, which is like, you're not supposed to love somebody in your own love language. Like, yes, that's how you want love to, like, how to receive it, but to like show appreciation for others, you kind of have to, you put in a little more effort to just like see how your friends want to be appreciated. And I feel like if you do that, then you can have like what they said, that equilibrium, that balance in your friendship and relationships. I actually lost like the first time I was in college, I lost some really good friendships. And I think part of the reason, definitely not the whole reason, was because like I wasn't, cognizant of my friend, how my friend liked to be appreciated. So I think that she felt like I took her for granted, and I can't blame her for that, because like words of affirmation is not very high on my list of love languages. I don't verbally show people affection. For me, sometimes I feel like, us just being in each other's presence is enough, and that's not always enough. Sometimes people want you to acknowledge everything that they're doing for you, the time that they're spending with you. And but then I think both of us were wrong because neither of us communicated, but like that's grasping at straws. my point is that like communicating with your friends and your family and like eventual romantic partners is kind of how you always are able to maintain that balance and equilibrium.
I think that was a really good example, Amina, and I think that was also a really good way to kind of wrap up our portion of this topic. So now I'm gonna have the guys come on, show their faces.
Don't be scared. Come on by.
All right, well, we're here.
Hello, hello.
So y'all did a great job. It was very educating. I think we'd had this conversation on the pod so many times about doing this episode, and it just came down to the fact that the guys maybe weren't as aware, right? And that was the term that we're using. We're using the word aware. I think you guys all make great points. Like we as guys, I feel like we've talked about this on so many episodes related to mental health. Like we're taught not to act a certain way, and it's very much like instilled in us to not act that way. So to not know something that's labeled as a love language, it doesn't shock me. I mean, guys, this shock y'all. Like I feel like naturally a guy would not go out of his way to learn somebody else's love language. I feel like we are more like I'll observe it and I'll figure it out, and I may naturally know it, but I'm not gonna know it.
Yeah, I'm not
That's a
gonna
really fair point.
lie. While y'all were, going on your spiel, I was like, oh, yo, that's actually pretty cool. And I actually like didn't do the test until like while y'all were going. So I did the test, like the 5lovelanguages.com, and my number one ended up being acts of service, and then number two was quality time. And it actually kind of makes a lot of sense. Like I was looking at each category and I was like reflecting on my life. I'm like, I do appreciate it when people do acts of service, and I do actually like doing acts of service for other people as well. Like, and then quality time, like being around people and hanging out. And like I mean, you said it beautifully. You're like, you're talking about like I know like the guys probably don't know what their love languages are or this and that, but I'm sure they practice it a lot in a sense. Like we might not formally know, we probably didn't know before this like what they were, but like we're practically like we know like what our friends like or what they don't like. We think we know at least from like just observing them. So it was cool to see like when you actually take the test, and I kind of want my family members to take the test. I kind of want my friends to take the test just so I know. It's kind of cool context to have. But yeah, it's actually pretty interesting.
I feel like we were kind of when we think about like the love languages, like I know, so like Jamal was saying he had not taken the test. I just recently took the test, and I think Masani also just recently took the test as well. But I think we kind of associated it as like a significant other type test, or at least kind of that's how at least I perceived it as. So I never kind of, I was like, this is kind of weird. Like, I'm not about to do this. Like, I'm just gonna, like whatever. But again, like you guys, like all the girls kind of highlighted and they pinpointed on like that it's literally does not have to do with that. It's literally, it revolves around everybody, right? It could be your family, how you interact with like friends and stuff. So I think that is something that is really important to understand. And I guess, for us to educate ourselves on it was really big. So that's what I kind of got out of the whole thing. And again, my traits or my characteristics were very similar to Jamal's. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good. It was a good test, and I definitely would highly recommend everyone taking it.
Yeah. After Maz's little sales speech, like, oh, never mind, some more. Go for it, bro.
Yeah, no, I was gonna go off Masani. I think you're right about. I like how you said that as guys, we're more on the observant side, and we kind of just figure out what our friends are into or whoever, like our parents, whatever your relationship is, we kind of just observe, and instead of taking into account the 5 different love languages and stuff. I'm gonna agree with you on that. I remember I took the quiz about a couple of weeks back, so I don't really recall what I got, but it was actually pretty accurate from what I remember to what what I like. So yeah.
Yeah, my bad, bro. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I didn't know we were gonna have a guest appearance. But wrapping it back, I think like the big thing for me is still like obviously right, like the three of us talking about the fact that there was this stigma. One podcast isn't gonna change that. So how do you go to like your guy friend and talk to him and try and find out? Because I feel like being observant is one thing, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like you could be wrong. Like that's the whole thing. Like I could think Jamal loved like receiving gifts, and I could be wasting a credit card bill on him, and he's still like, yo, what the hell is this dude doing?
Hey man.
So how do you like get to the bottom of that?
I wouldn't mind some gifts. I still got 20% gifts in my thing. You know what I'm saying? But
That wasn't an invite.
in general, bro, I think I mean, I think it's obviously a little bit different for guys than it is for girls. Like for guys, like I guess for me, I just like literally text the link like, "Yo, fill this out. Let me know what your results are." Like, that's just how I am with my friends. I'm just straight up and blunt like that. So I'm just curious to see like what it is. Tomorrow, what were your results?
You don't think a guy or one of your friends is gonna question you as to why you
Bro,
think
I
that?
don't care.
Like, then you think they're just gonna take the
Yeah.
test just happily, like, oh yeah, let me just do this 5 love languages without asking you a question.
I mean,
About
yeah.
why
I mean,
you-
at first, I thought it was like a couple thing or like finding your match type thing, right? Like what, wait, like all this horoscope stuff. The thing about this horoscope stuff is that like it applies to everyone in some fashion. This one is actually kind of tailored to you, which is kind of cool. I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe you could get that reaction from people, Maz, but like, I'm personally have my family members do it. Like, I already know I'm gonna go to my brothers. They're gonna be like, I'm not doing this. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna make sure that they do it. I'm just gonna see. But yeah, I don't know how you force them, but you just encourage it. And I guess it's cool kind of having that context, like especially with my parents. My dad is someone who's not known to show a lot of emotions. So like knowing like if he took this test, I'd be like, oh, so I know how to like love you. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's cool. It's interesting.
I hate how it's like not what it appears to be. Like it just at first, all of us had the same reaction. It's called 5 love languages. We just automatically assume it's related to a partner or something. I know all of us guys were just like not with it, but it is rather interesting. I'm more interested in like how like my family members are towards it rather than my friends. I don't know if I'm gonna send this link to any of my homies and be like, yo, can you take this for me? And so I can see what you like and stuff. But for sure, yeah, it's interesting. But I'm not about that.
I mean, if you say it the way you just said it, then obviously they're gonna be like, you weirdo. Like,
please,
I
how
want to
would
do
you
this
say
link
it,
just for
Maz?
you to tell me how you like what you like. Like, no, bro, that's
Bro,
so weird.
I feel like
How
there's
do
no
you make
context. You're gonna
this-
drop a text. Yeah, how you gonna drop a text and be like, yo, can you take this test? And they see 5lovelanguages.com. What are they gonna say to you?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, how do we make this sound like not? Or how you have to send them like a lengthy like paragraph and explain to them what you're trying to do before you even just send that link. You feel?
Wait, what were your top 2?
I don't. I think I was. I don't. I think I was words of affirmation. I don't remember.
I think tomorrow had the same
And
top 2.
yeah, probably
Acts of service and quality
acts
time.
of service. I think. I don't. I really don't remember. I
But
really don't recall.
hey, man, I'm just saying, acts of
Yo.
service kind of makes sense for all of us since we're all volunteering for the podcast and stuff, which is dope. So I guess it makes sense. That's cool. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah. So my cousin recently got married, right? So the imam that was doing the nikah, his like right before he did the nikah, he's like, I want to let you guys know, like before I agree to even do this nikah, I sat him down and I was like, these are the 5 love languages. I need you to know these right now. So that way, like if you know them now, you're gonna be able to like work with them. So clearly, like they're important, right? Like the imam was like, I'm literally not gonna do your nikah unless you sit down and figure these out. And like the day of the nikah, he's like, I want to like you tell me right now which of the 5 do you remember? And he like had him list them off. So clearly, like they have relevance and weight and importance. And obviously, for him, it's in a relationship. But I think we've all highlighted like you could use them in friendships too. I just think it comes down to getting that stigma off. Like I don't think we have. I don't think if Maz wasn't on this pod and I texted him like, yo, like even if I sent him that link, he's not taking it. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna sit there and be just as it's like I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I'm just saying the girls really reduced the stigma for us because I don't think we would have felt comfortable talking about this because first of all I didn't even take the test beforehand. It's like coming on here and just talking about it without the girls giving their opinion first and their view on it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense. I think it was the same for a lot of us, so they kind of like reduced the stigma for us, and hopefully we can do the same for other people that are also men. So yeah.
Do y'all feel like your upbringing changes your
Yes.
like what you
Yes.
yeah?
It's like,
Yeah.
us with our desi dads and their no affection, like what?
Bro, but then none of us had.
Are we
See, I
allowed
was
to,
thinking
like-
that. But none of us had words of affirmation. Like that wasn't any of our top 2.
Well, I mean, quality time is interesting too, right? I mean, I guess words of affirmation might not be there. I mean, this is just a hunch. It's because you didn't receive any, so it's not going to be your go-to. You know what I mean? Like if you don't receive a lot of word of affirmation, then you don't really know how to love in that. Like I'm not going to say you don't know how to love, but you're not used to it. You know, like for example, example, me and my mom, we never really grew up like. I mean, there was like the I love you, this and that, but we never really hugged that much. Like it wasn't that type of relationship, but it was more like acts of service and quality time. Like I spent a lot more time with her, acts of service. We'd always be doing things together. I'd be doing things for her. She'd be doing things for me. So like that's kind of what it evolved into. But now now that I think about it, I'm like, we actually didn't really have much of that. You know what I mean? And I guess I just kind of grew into that. And now if I look at mine, my physical touch is at 0%. I don't know if I'm just like, I have no idea, but yeah.
Same.
Yo, yeah. Actually, Loki, that's a pretty good point. I didn't think about that. Um, like you're not told growing up like, yo, like I'm proud of you or like I love you. Like that's not, you don't think that's the right thing to say. So I guess that makes sense. Like acts services are one, right? Because like growing up in the MT community, like volunteering a lot, like we feel like that's inherently who we are as a person. That's what we're doing. I mean that makes sense, man. I don't know. I'm still stuck trying to wrap my head around like how you find someone else's out because the girls made it sound so easy. Like I don't know, do y'all have like a group chat and you just drop a text? You're like, yo, tell me what it is. It's like when's everyone's birthday? It's like what's your love language? It's like for guys, I feel like you can't do that. It's just
I mean, I feel
you
like
can't apply it then.
guys have a good sense of, so depending on how close you are people, you kind of know what they like and what they don't like. Generally, right? But I guess if you want to be specific, like Maz, I knew that yours was going to be quality time and acts of service because that tends to be like how your days go. Like whenever I see you, it's usually acts
But
of service, you know what I mean?
I have a question for you guys. Though, do you guys think like your answers are gonna like differ from like your friend group compared to like an actual like significant other? I don't know if you understand.
I feel like they have to, right?
You're
I
supposed
feel like
to.
they have to because they're different people at the end of the day. Are you talking about like what I prefer or like what I'm gonna project?
I think for significant other, it's going to differ because I think you just need that compliment and that perspective. I think for friends, I would say generally you probably latch on to people that are in that same thing. Like for example, Musani, your acts of service, Maz, your acts of service, Damore's acts of service. Like that, I feel like that naturally happens. But I feel like you're also gonna have friends that aren't, especially like I feel like as time goes on, I could 100% see that these love languages change over time. As you get older, as you meet new people, as you experience different things, it'll probably change. So I guess it depends on where you are in your life.
Yo, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the fact that you probably latch on to people that are like you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you make friends, you're inherently like just making friends, right? And you're just trying to. I didn't think about the fact that what I. Oh, okay, that's a good point. That's low key a really good point.
Girls, chime in. We want to hear what you think.
I think you made a really good point, Jamal, that they change over time. When I was a kid, my love language was 100% without a doubt physical touch. I was just too touchy feely. And I think my having ADHD kind of played a hand in that, and that I was like overly affectionate. And then I calmed down when I got to like high school and college. And it definitely like shifted more to like quality time and spending time with people rather than like physical touch. I also kind of want to just circle back for just a quick second when you said, do I think my upbringing had anything to do with like the shaping of my love languages? I definitely do. I come from a really big Black family, and we are just the epitome of affectionate in the sense, and again, overly affectionate. That's kind of where I got that from. But my upbringing and just like how my mom raised me definitely like made me the person I am today, and definitely like played a part in my love languages today.
Do y'all
Somebody
think?
else?
Yeah. Do y'all think your love language changes based on like the friend group you're in? Like, would you prefer receiving gifts from one friend group versus spending quality time with another? Because like you're still the same person, but does your love language change for you guys in like different scenarios?
No, I don't think so. I think that your love
No.
remains pretty like kind of like relative to you. Like if you like words of affirmation, whether it's from your mom or whether it's from different types of friends, that's what you're gonna like. But I think that the way that we prefer these love languages from different people, I think that's where you can see the biggest change.
I don't know. I feel like this is just me. I'm just thinking like right on the spot, but I feel like it could differ from friend group to friend group. I'm just thinking of it like on the spot, like sometimes you'd feel like you'd get better words of affirmation from this friend group, or you'd feel like you'd get acts of service from this friend group. I don't know. What do you guys think? Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense, but I think it also ties into like, for example, like you would have a group of people that you tend to like do acts of service with, right? And then people you tend to like prefer to do quality time with, per se, if those are your top two. But I feel like if you have a weak one, I don't think you would find that in any friend group because that's just not who you are. But if you had strong ones, like two or three strong ones, they might be divided into different groups of people, but you're still practicing all of them, maybe that could be a thing.
I was also gonna say that I personally, for me, it varies depending on the kind of relationship. So like with friends, my love language is different, like the love language that I want to receive. With family, it's different, and then it's different.
He
Okay,
said
sorry.
we're not her friends, so it's different for us.
Yeah, it's different. So I definitely think, but I don't know if it's also depending on like the timeline, like how long I've been friends with the people, or like, so for family, obviously, like we obviously just talked about it, but it depends on how you were raised and stuff. Like for me, like I never got words of affirmation from my parents. Like that's just not a thing. Like good job. Like I never got that. So for me, that's not really valuable. Like I don't really value, even if they do, that's like not, that's something that I don't really value as much. But like quality time is something that we always did growing up. Like I always would spend time with my family, and things like that. So this is something that I still, till this day, as I grew up, still enjoy. So, but then with friends, depending on like how long I've known them, if it's someone that I just met, I feel like my true love language, or I guess like, I don't know, I'm just trying to say that I think it varies. So yeah, long story short, it varies.
No, I see where you're coming from. Like with this podcast group, like I consider you guys friends, but we've only known each other for a hot minute. And so me personally, I'm not expecting all of you guys to be in tune with my love language and like show me appreciation and affection in the way that I want it. Like in the sense that I'm not going to get upset if you don't do it. But like my friend, I got one friend, I call her Pookie. I've known her for it's 20 years this year. And if she what is it called, started to clown and act like she didn't know me and like how I like to be appreciated or whatever, then I would feel some kind of way about it. And the same thing with my family. They've known me my entire life, and so they know like what kind of person I am. And um it kind of just like it goes back to that whole thing of like how well I know somebody and versus like um I don't know, the appropriateness of the situation. If I'm being honest, I only have 2 friend groups in my family. So I don't have that much diversity. I don't think mine changes from group to group though. My expectations do, but not the actual love language.
Going off of what Amina said, you know how she said that if she didn't receive some sort of love language from her other friends, she wouldn't be upset. So with you guys, like if you don't receive your love language, like from like either a significant other or like a friendship, like is that like a deal breaker for you? Like what would you guys do in that situation? Like does it mean that much to you where you guys will like either talk about it or you're just like, okay, yeah, this isn't it, or like what would you guys do? Or how would you deal with that?
I
I don't
think
know if the guys know how to talk about it. Y'all know, Jamal, I feel like you have an answer. Do you know how to talk about it?
I mean,
I feel like I wouldn't know how to bring it up.
I would say that, so until now I wouldn't know the exact like love language. I just took the test, but like I feel like everyone naturally knows, like depending on your friendship with the person, how long you've known them, like how well they should know you. And that's like I guess guys would consider that like love language if they didn't take the test, right? Like you know certain things about people, people know certain things about you, you know what offends people, you know what makes them happy. You know what I mean? So if a very, very close friend of yours, and let's say words of affirmation is your love language, says something not so nice, and you expect them to know like, hey, like you should know that something like that would get to me type thing, then that would be like a red flag. Like you know, like you should know better. It's like, let's say you've known this friend for years, you know what I mean, and you expect that from them. I guess that would be an example.
All right, girls, like I guess the guys have agreed, right? Like Tamor said it too. Like we observe. Like what do you guys do? Like how do you know?
Observe.
Like what is your general? Is it just observing? Like
Me
Honestly,
personally, I grew up as a very observant. I was talkative, but I was also I listened as much as I talked. And it's not just about like what they say, but it's like body language. And so like I pay close attention to all of that. And I also notice like people's reactions to others. And then I kind of just like draw my own conclusions. But then I do have one friend who just outright and being like, my love language is words of affirmation. And I was like, you know what, that's pretty cool. And it was unprompted, but it was awesome, like because now I know, you know.
Facts. All right. Well, I think this was a great conversation. This is probably a good time to cut it. But this is awesome. I didn't expect for this to actually go on and be a conversation like this. I think guys especially didn't expect it. So thank you for the girls for education and educating us. Thank you for the guys for being awesome. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Salams.